It is now time for the contest to begin, and I would like to invite contestant number 1, Lawrence Okello. Please take your speaking position and indicate that you're ready to speak. I will request all other attendants who are in the room to switch off their videos so that Lawrence will be able to see the timer quite clearly. Lawrence, good morning, good afternoon, and tell me, can you see the timer?
Good afternoon, contest chair. Yes, I can see you and the timer.
Okay. All right. Are you ready to speak?
Yes, I am.
Lawrence Okello, Conquering Everest. Conquering Everest, Lawrence Okello.
Way back in 1953, Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay became the first people to successfully climb Mount Everest. Almost 70 years later, can you guess how many people have managed to repeat that feat? Less than 6,000. Now, this is not altogether surprising when you consider that it costs more than $30,000 just to attempt to climb the mountain. And after that, only 1 in 3 people that attempt the climb will reach the summit. More concerning, 1 in 15 that attempt will die. Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I am fascinated about what it takes to climb the highest mountain. And I was also curious to know whether any other Kenyans share this fascination with me. I was delighted to find that a James K.G. Kagambi had the ambition to become the first Kenyan to successfully climb Mount Everest. KG is a seasoned mountaineer of almost 40 years and believes that with enough passion and determination, one can achieve anything. I did some research to assess KG's chances and the chances of anyone else trying to climb Everest, to find out how to improve the success. And I've concluded that there are 3 critical success factors. 1 is a compelling reason. 2 is adequate preparation. And 3 is mental toughness. So let's go through each of these, starting with the reason. Perhaps the most compelling reason given for climbing Everest was that by George Mallory way back in the 1920s. Mallory made 3 unsuccessful attempts to climb the mountain. And when he was asked by bemused observers why he was so obsessed with trying to climb the mountain, he gave an answer that was simple and pure. Because it's there. It's as if the mountain in all its might, majesty, and glory was daring him to climb it. And that reason has resonated with climbers all around the world, including our own KG. So let's now look at the second critical success factor, and that's adequate preparation. Preparation begins with an understanding of the things that improve our chances of success. For example, attempting the climb from the south side in Nepal gives you a better chance than attempting it from the north side in Tibet. And that's because the gradient on the south side is steeper. And so if one gets into trouble, it can be evacuated down the mountain faster. The other critical aspect of preparation is physical conditioning. To be able to withstand day after day and week after week on the mountain with heavy backpacks and difficult, icy and snowy terrain. And as one climbs higher and higher, the air gets thinner and thinner, making it more difficult to breathe. This preparation can take months or even years. KG first attempted to get to base camp in 2017, but only attempted the climb of the mountain this year in 2022. So let's now look at the final critical success factor, which is mental toughness. Climbers have got to be able to withstand almost inhumane physical conditions, minus 30 degrees C, biting cold that pierces every single piece of blood, flesh, and bone in the body, eyelids frozen shut by the conditions. Climbers have got to be able to push themselves to the absolute limit, but not 1 inch beyond, as this can make the difference between life and death. KG recalls a time when they were climbing Mount Kenya. They had done everything perfectly and were ready for the final ascent. They could see the beautiful snow-capped peak glistening under the morning African sun. They were ready to make their ascent, and just then, suddenly, the weather changed. A snowstorm ensued, and rocks started falling heavily. They decided to turn around and go back. It is this kind of judgment call that can make the difference between those who live to try another day and those who die on the mountain. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, I have demonstrated that the odds of successfully climbing Everest are stacked against us. But with a compelling reason, adequate preparation, and mental toughness, we can significantly improve our chances of success. We all have our Everests. I'm sure you have yours. I definitely have mine. For many, it's the physical mountain. And sometimes the challenge can be overwhelming. It can seem insurmountable. And if we need to look for inspiration, we need look no further than KG Kaduki, who on 12th May 2022 became the first Kenyan to successfully reach the summit of Everest. He is a 62-year-old retired teacher. He overcame the challenge of his painful knees from years of climbing to spend 40 days on the mountain before reaching the summit. And this kind of achievement reminds us of the words said so eloquently by Edmund Hillary all those years ago, that it is not the mountain that we conquer, but ourselves. Contest chair.
Thank you, Lawrence. We'll now give 1 minute of silence to allow the judges to mark their ballots. Thank you, timekeeper. Our second speaker is Lalindra Da Silva. Lalindra, please say that I am ready.
I am ready.
Thank you. Lalindra Da Silva, what's your why? What's your why, Lalindra Da Silva?
Have you ever had a moment in your life that your life was torn into tiny and tiny pieces? Mr. Contest Chair, fellow Toastmasters and guests, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. Sometimes life throws a curveball at you when you least expect. At that moment, what do? Do you stay knocked down? Get up, dust yourself, and move on. Let me tell you a story. My story. For as long as I could remember, I have been morbidly obese. I used to be the fattest kid in my neighborhood, among my friends, and in my school. I used to be made fun of every single day of my life. I used to be called Lalifant, Fatso, Kohen Kapuat, Kilo Ekai in my native Sinhalese language, which translates to, if you cut from anywhere, you get a kilo of flesh. Now, imagine, made fun of every single day in your life. It hurts real bad. What did I do? I got into this vicious cycle where I knew I had to lose weight, but I turned to my favorite. And then the pounds, the kilos kept piling on and piling on. Years went by, and I started to find various excuses to justify my unhealthy lifestyle. I used to think, I'm not fat. God has blessed me with airbags for extra safety and comfort. I used to tell my friends, who needs a six-pack when you got one big family pack? And December 26th, 2019 was the day that broke the camel's back. I went for a health checkup. I was diagnosed with a severe case of fatty liver. What does this mean? If done nothing, I would end up with diabetes or worse, cirrhosis, which means my liver is gone for good. Now, how many of you have failed an exam and it was time to take your report card to your mom? Well, it was me that day taking this report to my wife. What started World War III? We argued and argued and argued. And finally, she began to cry. I have seen my wife cry only twice in her life. The day her father passed away, and that day. Finally, she told me, Lali, if you can't do it for you, if you can't do it for me, at least do it for your two boys and unborn child. Do you want to leave them fatherless? Do you want to die young? Then, my 7-year-old son came running to me and said, Dada, please listen to Mama. I don't want you to die. Please. I don't want you to die. Those words are like a knife piercing my heart. At that moment, I had two choices. Either brush it off, like nothing had happened, or make a U-turn in my life. What did I do? I chose the latter. I met a dietitian, worked out a healthy meal plan, and started to hit the gym 5 days a week. Do you know what happened next? What happened next? to blow your mind away. Today, my liver is back to normal. And I have lost, around 30 kgs. 30 kgs. Can't believe it. Fellow Toastmasters guests, my only regret in life is why? Why couldn't I have done this earlier? The answer is simple. I never found a compelling reason until that day. Fellow Toastmasters, if you want to be successful in life, if you want to improve the quality of your life, if you want to achieve the goals of your life, you need to discover your why. Ask yourself, why do you do what you do? Why, and yes, why? Let me tell you why it is important for you to know your why. The answer is, the bitter truth is, you are going to fail. You are going to get disappointed. You are going to cry until there is no tears left. Do you think it was easy to lose this type of weight? No. I failed many times. I felt like giving up many times. But those words of my 7-year-old son and the tears of my wife is what kept me going. Fellow Toastmasters, your why is going to be that light at the end of the tunnel. Your why is going to give you that strength when you have none left. Your why is going to keep you fighting when no one else thinks good about you. Fellow Toastmasters guests, in the words of Mark Twain, there are two important days in a man's life: the day he was born and the day he discovers why. Discover your why. Embrace it. Breathe it and live it. Mr. Contest Chair.
Thank you, Lilindra. You may now put off your video. Joyce Kaduki is our third speaker. Please take your speaking position and indicate that you are ready. Joyce Kaduki. Joyce Kaduki, please say, I am ready.
Point of order, contest chair. 1 minute of silence.
Let's give the judges 1 minute of silence so that they may mark their ballots. My apologies for that. In the meantime, Joyce Kaduki, be ready to be the next speaker. Thank you, timer. Our third speaker is Joyce Kaduki. Joyce, please take your speaking position and indicate that you're ready by saying, "I am ready."
I'm ready.
Joyce Kaduki, The Beauty Beyond. The Beauty Beyond, Joyce Kaduki.
It was a lazy Sunday afternoon, and I was getting ready to cook beans. As we do in Africa with freshly harvested beans. I picked out a few that looked spoiled, and I tossed them out through the window. Imagine my surprise when a few weeks later, I looked out through the window and found that those spoiled beans had grown into stalks. And just to be clear, this is not a story about Joyce and the beanstalk. Contest chair and friends, have you ever focused on the problems, pressure, and pain in your life and failed to see the beautiful potential, prospects, and possibilities that lay beyond? I have. Cooking in my kitchen that day, I was only interested in those beans being part of a good meal. I couldn't see their potential for new life and growth because I was not looking beyond what was right before my eyes. And if I had been one of those beans tossed out through the window and into the soil, I'd have said, "This is a disaster. I'm not good enough. I'm doomed." I know I would have been focused on being seen as not good enough and not realized the potential in the dirt I had landed in. How do I know I would have reacted like this? Let me tell you. It was a crazy Monday afternoon. My boss called me into his office. I was excited because I had been told that the last person invited into that office came out with a big promotion. When my boss said, "Joyce, we value you," my spirits rose. My long-awaited pay rise was finally here. Then he continued, "But we don't need you. We will be scrapping your position. Value you, but don't need you?" Sounded like a good title for a song, but not a way to describe my job status. In that moment, I felt like beans being thrown out. I was in a daze for days, feeling very sorry for myself. I visited my godmother, Nana, hoping that she could lift my spirits. She looked at me and said, "Why do you look so troubled, my dear?" I poured out what my boss had said and how I felt worthless, useless, hopeless. Nana took my hand, gently led me to the table, and filled 2 cups with hot tea and said, "My dear, what you're going through is not the end. If you don't give up, you will find the beauty beyond your challenge. Her reassuring words were my wake-up call. If I was going to find the beauty beyond my challenge, I needed to focus. And so I started applying for jobs. Many of my applications were tossed out like bad beans, but I was not discouraged. I would not give up hope. I kept looking for the beauty beyond my challenge. It wasn't easy, but within a few months, like beans sending shy shoots through the dark soil, I felt worthy again. I felt useful again, and I got employed again. If Nana hadn't helped me to find the beauty beyond my challenge, I can only imagine what my life would have been like. My fellow beautiful beings, sometimes in life, it's easy to feel as if you've been tossed about and to feel as if your potential has been overlooked, dismissed, or rejected. Maybe you missed out on a promotion, lost a job, a contract, a relationship, a home, or even your life savings. But when life throws you into the dirt, you do have a choice. The easy choice is to focus on the mistakes, misses, and messes, to only see the doom and gloom like I did. But if you choose to, it's always possible to find the beauty beyond the challenge. That day, when I tossed out those beans, they landed in the environment where they could grow and flourish. They landed in a beautiful new life of possibilities. The beauty beyond the challenge. Contest chair.
Thank you, Joyce. You may now switch on your video. We'll give 1 minute to the judges to mark their ballots. Thank you, timekeeper. Our fourth speaker is Rita Mwima. Rita, please take your speaking position and confirm that you are ready. Please say, I am ready.
I am ready.
Rita Muima. Create a better you. Create a better you. Rita Muima.
Have you ever been in a situation where you needed to create a better you? Contact chair, Toastmasters, and guests, allow me to take you down my memory lane. 12 years ago, while at university, I met a charming, handsome young man. We attended the same computer programming class. And every time we were given an assignment, despite the challenge, this guy got everything right. Noel was well built, tall, and had a caramel brown skin complexion. Noel was not just nice looking, he was brilliant, smart, and hardworking. Indeed, he was the embodiment of the perfect young man, the epitome of the Prince Charming of my dreams. One day, Prince Charming noticed me. He asked me out on a date. A few months later, he proposed. And guess what? I said yes. I was so excited. I had finally found the love of my life. We got married and life was good. 7 years later, with 3 babies and a few extra kilos to this perfect size 8 body, this happily ever after story started changing. We constantly argued and were never on good terms with each other. That connection we had was long gone. I remember this one time when I came home after 8 p.m. and found Noel watching television. Immediately I walked into the living room. He rudely asked, "Rita, where are you from?" "I'm meeting a friend," I responded. "Next time, consider spending the rest of the night with that friend. Stop bothering us." I angrily retaliated. "Excuse me, I own this home too. You will not intimidate me." This argument went on and on until I decided not to respond anymore, seeing that it would get physical. I was so miserable in my own marriage and had so many thoughts running through my mind. Did I rush into this marriage? Did I choose the wrong partner? Am I ready to even spend the rest of my life in an unhappy marriage? This was the most important relationship in my life. And yet, because it wasn't working out, I felt like a total failure. It's at this point that I decided that instead of letting this challenge bring me down, I'll use it to create a better me. And I did 3 things. Number 1, I put off my engagement and wedding rings for the very first time in 7 years. This helped me take my focus off the challenge and more on creating a better me. Number 2, I started jogging. You see, after having 3 babies, I became overweight, and this affected my self-esteem. So twice every week, I consistently ran 10 kilometers. And in a few months' time, I was back in shape. Most of my clothes didn't fit anymore. So I decided to do a total wardrobe change. I felt so good about myself and more confident. Number 3, Toastmasters. Yes, I joined Toastmasters. You see, I already had a low self-esteem. But with this marital challenge, it had even gotten worse. So one day, I confided in one of my workmates, Angela, because I admired the way she confidently presented reports during our department meeting. So when I told her about how my low self-esteem had affected my communication skills, she recommended that I join Toastmasters. And when I did, I was active and consistently took on roles during club meetings. In a few months' time, I became a competent communicator. My attitude towards my husband totally changed. I learned to listen more, but speak less. Better still, I learned how to give my husband constructive feedback using the popular sandwich method. Today, my marriage has taken a total turn for the better. And my rings are back on. Toastmasters and guests, in which area of your life do you need to create a better you? What challenge are you facing today? Oprah Winfrey has said, challenges are gifts that force us to search for a new center of gravity. Don't fight them. Instead, find a different way to stand and create a better you. Come join me on this journey to create a better you. Contest chair.
Thank you, Rita, for that speech. You may now switch off your camera as we give the judges 1 minute to mark their ballots. Thank you, timer. Our 5th speaker is Stanley Aruyaru. Stanley, please take your speaking position and indicate you're ready by saying, I am ready.
I am ready.
Fantastic. Stanley Aruyaru, someone is watching. Someone is watching. Stanley Aruyaru.
It was Friday evening, the end of a long, busy day, culminating a long, busy week. And my friend and I were at the end of a long, busy street, stuck in traffic. Suddenly, there was an opening. And in the usual Nairobi traffic madness, every Tom, Dick, and Harry drove past us, but using the wrong side of the road. Come on, Stanley, follow them. After all, No one is watching. Contest chair, fellow Toastmasters. When was the last time you came under so much pressure to do something wrong just since no one was watching? I am here to share a formula I have found that shows that how you respond to such a moment could portend the solutions to all the problems that we deliver our society, our country, and the world at large. Let me start with my country, Kenya. Can all Kenyans on the call say, "I"? Now, Kenya is known for beautiful safaris, world record-breaking marathoners, the innovative M-Pesa, corruption. Okay, scratch that. But seriously, Kenya loses $1 billion Kenyan shillings to corruption every day. And that doesn't happen because we wire hundreds of millions of shillings in corrupt bank transactions. No, we have laws to cater against that. That happens because somebody somewhere, since no one is watching, gives 50 shilling note in a bribe. That one Kenyan becomes 10, then 10,000, then 10 million. And before we know it, cry, my beloved country, Kenya is choking under the yoke of corruption. Now imagine what would happen if everyone took a second chance, even if no one was watching, and thought against giving that bribe. Sounds so simplistic, inconsequential. I always thought the same until this. Until I won Business Daily Top 40 Under 40 Men 2021, an exemplary accolade for select 40 people in the entire country in recognition of some impact they are making. But for the last 6 months, every time I've looked at this trophy and looked at every nook and cranny of my conscience, I haven't found one big boss move that I made to warrant me this. And I have come to the conclusion that I won this recognition, not because of a singular big thing, but because of simple things I may have done that impacted different people in different ways. Every time I look at this trophy, I don't see a monument of fame in my cabinet, but a moment of hope and commitment to keep doing small things because they matter. And speaking of small things, a story is told of a forest that catches fire. And as the inferno guards 1 acre after acre after acre of plantation, all the animals and the birds flee for their safety. Then they do nothing except a small bird, the hummingbird. The hummingbird flies to a nearby lake, dips itself in water, flies back, and flips its wing to drop droplets of water in an effort to quench or put out the fire. Of course, the buffaloes, the elephants, and giraffes make mockery of the hummingbird. Oh, ho, 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 ho. You cannot achieve anything by this simple act, they say. I am doing the little I can, the best way I can, the hummingbird says as it flies again to dip itself in a lake and carry more droplets of water. Doing the little we can, the best way we can, is what we are called upon to do today, even when no one is watching, because that is the moment when someone is watching. That someone is our subconscious mind. James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, writes that when an act is repeated over and over and over, it becomes a habit. And the more we take on that habit, it becomes our lifestyle and our identity. Now imagine when you're under too much pressure to do something wrong, even when no one is watching, your subconscious is watching, and it registers that as an act that is welcome in your book. That one act, like my friend and I thinking of driving on the wrong side of the road, becomes registered. It forms a habit, and a hard habit is difficult to break. Now, the beauty of all this is the moment we stand our ground, despite temptation, and do the right thing, however small, then that also gets registered in our subconscious. And before we know it, we have a list of good habits that we can carry forward. Today, as we leave this conference, the one boss move we can all decide to take is to stick to doing the right thing, even if it's little, even if we're under too much pressure. Because at that moment, the solution to all the problems that we face will start being actualized. And I'm talking about the pollution in our cities, the corruption in our government, the yearn for lasting world peace, you name them. I know the inclination is to think, oh, that's too little, too late. Every time you think it's too little, too late, I invite you to listen to the words of the Dalai Lama. If you think you're too small to make a change, try sleeping with a mosquito. Contest chair.
Thank you, Stanley. We'll now give 1 minute for the judges to mark their ballots. Thank you, timer. Speaker number 6 is Karen Wakoli. Karen, please take your speaking position and indicate that you're ready by saying, I am ready.
I am ready, but I can see the host has put something on the screen. If the host could remove it. Thank you, Contest Chair. I'm ready.
Karen Wakoli, own your story. Own your story, Karen Wakoli.
I will never forget the day I gave my icebreaker speech. For 3 good months, I tried to find the courage to give that speech. I read all the manuals that were necessary twice. And I listened to many speeches until I felt ready to give my speech. I put it together and then I revised it over and over and over again till I felt it was ready to be shared with my mentor, Eric Ndume. I expected him to say, Karen, this is the greatest icebreaker I have ever heard. No, he didn't. What he said caught me off balance. He said, Karen, Your icebreaker speech is good, but you can make it great by sharing a personal story. Your story will allow the audience to connect with you and to know you better. I said, what? No way, no way. I am a very private person. My story is my story. It's personal, period. You see, prior to joining Toastmasters Club, I used to think that stories were things we only read in novels and watched in movies. I was so afraid of having to share my personal story that at one point I contemplated walking away from this amazing journey that I was just getting started on. I took time to listen to several Toastmasters give their speeches and share their stories until that point when I felt compelled to share my story as well. And I started introspecting. What parts of my story am I comfortable sharing? In that moment, I realized that I was afraid. I was so afraid to share my story because I felt embarrassed and ashamed about some of those experiences. In that moment of introspection, my mentor said, Karen, the Toastmasters journey is self-paced. You take it at your own time. There is no pressure. Friends, I have since learned that for me to own my story, I have to tell it. And you may be wondering, how do you own your story? I will share with you 3 ways of how you can own your story. The first way is this: tell your story in your own voice. There's an African proverb that says that until the lion tells his side of the story, the tale of the hunt will always, always glorify the hunter. When we share our stories, we take back our power. We give ourselves permission to own the room. What I am doing right here, right now, is owning my story by telling it in my own voice. And you can do the same. Way number 2, embrace the courage to be vulnerable. Vulnerability is an act of courage. When we share our stories, it doesn't mean that we're not afraid. No, we are afraid and we feel the fear, but you know what? We tell the story anyway. I struggled quite a bit with sharing a part of my story about growing up in poverty. Poverty has a way of crushing the human soul. Poverty has a way of eating away at your confidence and your self-esteem. This is a past I had worked so hard at running away from and just forgetting. Trying to remember it was hard. And having to tell it to the public was even harder. I feared judgment. I was so afraid. But I had to dig deep to find the courage to share this story. And the more I shared this story, the more I found the courage and the confidence to keep sharing it. And the more I got feedback that my story was inspiring many people. People came to me and told me, Karen, I have a similar background. I've never told anyone this story, but I now have the courage to share my story. I feel inspired to own my story. that just affirmed to me one thing, that the stories we do not want to share are the ones we have to share, because those will be the ones that are most relevant and most impactful to our audience. Embrace that courage to be vulnerable. Way number 3, tell your whole story. Our lives are a totality of the experiences that we live. Some of those experiences are of the glorious mountaintop experiences, while others are of the darkest of the valley low moments of our lives. But all these stories must be told. The day I told the story about growing up in poverty, something happened in me. I felt free from the shackles of poverty. Fellow storytellers, I am not the same person who shared that icebreaker speech 3 years ago. I have learned to own all of my stories. I didn't know I had it in me to actually share the painful and private parts of my story. I implore you, step out of your comfort zone. Find your voice and own your story. Contest chair.
Thank you, Karen. Karen is the last of our 6 speakers today, so we now give 2 minutes to the judges to mark and submit their ballots. Thank you, timer. A round of applause to our 6 speakers this afternoon. And I'm going to ask all of them to put on their cameras so that they can be pinned by our sergeant at arms. So Rita and Lawrence, please put your cameras on so that we can pin you. I see Rita, I see Karen. Yeah, let's pin them. And a few quick questions for all of you. How are you feeling after delivering that epic speak, the culmination of your journey to the very top of the district? How are you feeling? Let me start with you, Lawrence.
Thank you, Contest Chair. No, I've enjoyed today. I went first, but I saw all of the rest of the speakers, and I congratulate all of them because I think everyone took time to deliver to the best of their ability, and I enjoyed all the speeches. They were different, and they showed different skills. So I do this to challenge myself to learn and to grow, and I feel that I've achieved those objectives.
Fantastic. Are you a mountain climber, Lawrence, if I may ask?
Not to the same extent as the likes of KG, but I do enjoy the challenge. I've gone as far as Longonot. I have a target of doing Mount Kenya and later Mount Kilimanjaro.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. And congratulations through you to KG. It was excellent news hearing about his conquest of Mount Everest. Lalindra. I'm sure you're feeling relieved. You'd love to be out taking pictures of some wildlife. How are you feeling today?
Wow. I feel like I feel like my heart is beating a bit, It's, even though we have done so many speeches before, it's not like, at the district level where you get to deliver a speech. So it was an amazing experience, and speeches which I've heard today are amazing speeches. And it's really nice to see that East Africa, we have some amazing speakers. We are going places.
Fantastic. I agree with you 100%. I think you'll need to take a trip out to take a few more pictures so that the pounding of your heart can come down a little bit.
For sure.
Thank you, Lalindra. Joyce, how are you today?
I am doing well, Mr. Contest Chair.
I saw on your profile that one of the things that you love to do is singing. Are you ready to sing out at the moment?
I am not ready to sing out, not this moment. Today is a day for talking, not singing.
Fantastic. That was a good speech and well done, Joyce.
Thank you.
Rita, creating a better you. I like that dramatic throwing off of the cover that you're wearing. How are you feeling today after delivering that speech?
I feel relieved. I feel like I've grown a notch higher. Contests will push you out of your comfort zone. So I feel happy about coming this far.
Fantastic. Well done. I saw in your profile that you're a researcher into viruses. Let me ask you a question so that all of us can be happy. Is that big bad virus finally behind us?
We are not yet sure.
Hopefully one of these days it will be behind us. Thank you for your speech. We really enjoyed it. Dr. Stanley.
Yes, Anthony.
The soccer-loving surgeon, how are you feeling today?
Well, I have mixed feelings in terms of the process. I love the process that I've had preparing for the speech and coming up to the district finals. In terms of what next, of course, my heart was about to stop pounding, but it still pounds until the judge declares the results. But it's been a fantastic journey, really, coming all the way to the district finals.
Fantastic. Well done. And thank you for that speech. It touches a lot of us Kenyans when you talk about the ills that we are also familiar with. And finally, Karen, who is inspired by love and telling her own story. How are you feeling today?
I feel relieved that, we are done with this.
All right. So what are you going to do after this?
Wow.
To reduce the pounding of your heart, because it seems to be a theme that's running through everybody's comments today.
Wow, I think either I'll go to the gym or go for massage.
Fantastic. I would like to congratulate all of you for a fantastic, fantastic delivery. We really enjoyed those speeches. It is my prayer that one of you will get all the way to the final in Nashville in a few months' time and fly the District 114 flag as high as possible. I will now ask our Sergeant at Arms to display your certificates of participation with great gratitude from us. So thank you, Lawrence. Thank you, Lilindra. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Rita. Thank you, Dr. Stanley. And thank you, Karen. Well done.